We need to talk about Will Cherry. I'll have him introduce himself.
Will Cherry is the jack of all trades and hopefully master of most of them. I'm an artist that I make, hip hop and R&B music, a little bit of house music. I produce all my music, I direct all my videos, and everything I'm making, I'm really just trying to tell a story that can hopefully be relatable and make you feel something.
Will Cherry reached out to me in 2022. That effort struck me. He's been supporting my platform for years, and I'd like to take a special chance to spotlight him for this episode. Today we're talking about his new movement, the album and short film Somewhere in Ohio. Let's get started. What got you interested in making music?
Music came into play super early. When I was like 7 years old, I knew I wanted to do like music and movies and everything like that. So now what I'm doing is just the manifestation of what I always wanted to do.
Could you share a little bit about the Somewhere in Ohio movement, as we might call it?
Yeah, it is. That's a good way to word it too, because it is like, it's an album. It started off as just an album, but it's become like the short film, and it's like almost like I've been calling it a guide. Like in a lot of the branding and stuff, like I'm referring to it as not just like a short film or an album, but a guide, because the whole concept of the music is to, and the film as well, is to inspire people, to give people like hope, to give people a sense of direction. One of the like guiding factors for me in making this album, what I was thinking about a lot was Man on the Moon by Kid Cudi. I feel like that was an album that people always refer to that as like an album that when things weren't working out in their lives, they were able to identify what he was talking about and like use that as something to give them some sort of hope or inspiration. And that was like definitely my biggest goal with this album, was I want to make something that if you listen from track 1 to track 12, you'll leave with some inspiration. Like the first thing you hear on the album is a bunch of different people telling you different things that they want, whether it be like material things or whether it be like, achievements in career or personal life and relationships and stuff. And then I spend the whole album essentially telling you what I want. And the last thing you hear is the narrator saying, what do you want, to the audience. So it was meant to like, engage with you and open something up within you.
I definitely felt that sort of sense of conversation throughout the project. Were there some sort of experiences that informed your design of the album?
The experiences that was worded beautifully. Experiences that informed the design of the album. I feel like my experience as an artist was like super important to it. Like something I always enjoyed. I realized this last week. I went to see this movie Saturday Night, which is about like the first airing of Saturday Night Live when they first aired the show in 1974 or whatever. And I realized when I was watching that, like it really moved me. I thought about like some of the other movies I like The Disaster Artist, certain movies. I always love movies about making movies, just like I love movies about making music. And I think it's because I love the artist journey. And I feel like my actual journey as an artist has influenced this project. But the music isn't just about like trying to make it as an artist, it's about trying to find purpose in anything. So like, me finding my purpose and, diving into it and being inspired by it and creating more and getting a little bit of success and figuring things out and trying to get further, it all adds to this for sure. Yeah.
I think that's a really cool vision. We've talked a bit about the idea of sort of showing intentionality and care within the creative process and, when working with other people. Could you speak a little more on that?
Yeah, I think honestly, man, I guess it's because, I came up on a lot of artists that are super collaborative. So like everything I've ever done has been pretty collaborative from the beginning since I was like a kid. But especially these last few albums since I started like putting music on streaming, like 2020 with Burgundy through now Somewhere in Ohio, like every album tends to have like a lot of different people playing different roles and adding different things. And it's usually mostly people that are from Ohio. And for me, I just love the idea of like working with people in different capacities and like having their input and having their ideas and literally having their voice or sometimes playing the instruments, having their hands like involved in the project. And with this album, we have like, I don't even know, it's probably like over like 25 people from, in some cases, all over the world. Like, but it's mostly people from Ohio. We have like Banky's on the project, Tay Miles on the project, Sierra Delana's on the project, Kip Stone, Eli Orco, Am the Queen, Lukey. Then we have musicians that are from like different continents and stuff like that, playing different instruments on the album. Wes Will is on a bunch of different songs. So the Trav Hen is narrating the whole album. For me, like, I just love the idea that for a project that's so much about Ohio and like so much about the experience of what it feels to be somewhere in Ohio, that you hear all these different voices. Like, the album is like, in a way, almost like a showcase. You know what I mean? So like, I love that. And I love, like, with Club Ultraviolet as well, it's like a further extension of my thought process of community. Like, for me, like, nothing I ever do is really like the Will Cherry show. Like, the Club Ultraviolet thing is not the Will Cherry show. I didn't headline a show or headline a Club Ultraviolet show, I think, until this year. Like, it was, for me, it was literally all, and for us, it was literally always about just like putting the right people in the room together and the right people on the stage together. And with the music, it's the same thing, like putting the right people on the songs together. And especially when it's like combinations that people have never heard before, that makes it even more fun. So like, yeah, it's all about bringing people together and creating interesting, different stuff.
And could you tell people who might not be familiar a little bit about Club Ultraviolet and your mission there?
Yeah, Club Ultraviolet is it's an event series, but it's also like clothing and media. And we want it to be like a much bigger thing, but it essentially started as us throwing shows in the Cleveland area. The first one was in 2021. We've been doing it every year since. And I think we did our 6th one this year. We did 3 of them this year alone. So the Beachland Tavern twice, and then the Grog Shop, where we premiered my short film for Somewhere in Ohio. But thank you. So yeah, like, the concept was just to bring great artists together, and not just the artists that are on stage, but also just the people that are in the room, like the people who may be interested in getting deeper into collaboration or building with their community. Like, I wanted to create the environment where people can be inspired, meet interesting people who are interested in working together, and basically like foster a good environment. Like, one of the things we were proudest of is the first show we had this year. After everybody was done performing, it was so many like interesting, great people in the crowd that for the next like 3 hours afterwards, people were dancing, people were talking, just hanging out in the venue for hours after the show. So where it's like, you know, it's about the performers and having a great show and having like a tight show, and you know, that matters, but what also matters is the vibe and, you know, the interactions between people.
You've talked a little bit about putting out your own CDs, and we've talked a bit about physical media. Would you want to get a little more into that?
Yeah. With my last album, Ultraviolet, we put out CDs for the album, and I want to do more of that in the future for the Somewhere in Ohio project. But for me, it was important to have physical media for the album because the albums, especially really all of them, but like Ultraviolet, it meant a lot to me, and it still means a lot to me. And I wanted people to hear the album and experience in a way that felt more than just clicking play on like a streaming service or YouTube or something like that. I wanted them to be able to physically hold the album, to own the album, which most people don't have. Like, we're not in the era where people own music because people don't often own CDs and vinyl and stuff like that. So like, I want to give people the opportunity to own my music, and like, no matter what happens in the world, like, everything is shut down and you still have my CD. Like, so I love that idea, and I feel like it's just something to keep going in the future because, as we talked about, like, old media and different things that are nostalgic, like, I feel like it's certain things that are never supposed to go away. And I feel like owning music and owning art is one of those things. Like, you're supposed to always, your favorite like piece of art, you should have the ability to hold it in your hands and not just experience it online. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's super important to me. And like, a lot of artists that I look up to place an emphasis on it. Like, even Tyler dropped his album today, and he put out like 100,000 of the vinyls, the test press vinyls, like the first press of them, and it's sold out. Like, because people want that, but it's just like sometimes people don't know they want it until you tell them, well, it's an option. And then so that's why I want to have those CDs. Like, if you want it, you can get it. So yeah.
And speaking of physical media, is there physical media that you yourself collect?
Yeah. I got a million DVDs, a million CDs, and I still have like basically everything from when I was a kid till now. Like anything that I didn't lose, I still have it. Like I never threw anything away or gave it away. Like, so I have a really big collection of like all my favorite stuff. And like one of the cool things about having physical media too is it sort of is a gateway for you to track your interests. Like you can sort of see like, okay, at this age, like I was collecting this type of movies or these type of movies or these type of albums. I was really into this artist and maybe not into him in the future, but you know, like that was something that was important to you at that point in time. And same with movies. Like I love it. Like I want to keep I am currently building my collection more and I want to keep doing it. Like I want to like expand and expand and expand because I just love the ability to go like touch and grab like the actual art. And yeah, so I'm definitely practicing when I'm preaching for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've spoken to the idea that people rarely get the experience of truly owning art. What do you think that really means on a greater level?
I think what it means probably on the biggest level is like individually like supporting the artist. Like, you know, before I guess music was for sale, people were buying paintings and stuff like that, like, and it was going to I guess whoever the painter's agent was or like whatever art house they were a part of or something like that, and the artists themselves. Like it's always been this process of like, if you really love something, if you really like, if it matters to you and you want it, you support and you buy it so you can have it. So like I think it's always that's why it's like on a psychological level, like it's bigger than just like I like this a lot. It's like I like this so much that I want to put money in your pocket. And I know people have record deals and you know how much money they get, it's fractured and depends. But for me, I'm an independent artist, so it all goes to me. So, and I know it's like you mentioned before, it's a million independent artists doing the same thing. So it's even better to support them because you know it's really going to them supporting their movement. So
I've admired a lot that there's a real sort of conversation between your visuals and music. You know, obviously we've talked a bit about the idea of movies influencing like those kinds of images, but how do you find that those worlds kind of play together for you now?
yeah, I feel like it's all super involved. Like the reason why, like, because I have like short films or versions of short films for previous albums I've done, but the reason why this one has the same title, the album and the film, is because as I was making the music, I knew the film was coming, and vice versa. Like I always had these ideas for both of them at the same time, so like they definitely inform each other all the time. Even though I wouldn't say like the music is not it's not like a soundtrack necessarily. Like it's not like I'm literally saying, okay, this is this scene, but in song form. But it's like just the essence of what's happening is all through the music and the film as well. Like the essence of what I'm talking about in the music is the characters' experiences, what the other characters are talking about, the situations, like, and everything. The drama of it all is like directly inspired by the music for sure. Yeah.
Could you share a little bit about the process surrounding Somewhere in Ohio?
Yeah, that was a really difficult film to make from the film side of things, but it was also super gratifying. I wrote it with my girlfriend Erica, and like we spent a lot of time looking for inspiration. And definitely the biggest inspirations were the movies Friday and Clerks and stuff like that, and for different reasons. Like partly because of like the idea of these mid-20s characters that are dissatisfied but with their lives and their jobs and stuff, but sort of also content. But then the idea of a character being put in a situation where he loses everything and he has to get everything back sort of quickly. So that element of it, and it was also inspired by like really just a lot of general short films, like just anything like with Paul Thomas Anderson, like his first movie. There's like a short film version of it with Owen and Luke Wilson, like those sort of things where it's like I want to look into directors' early stuff before they're able to really find their footing and like see how did they do it. It's funny because it's like no matter what situation, the budget for this film was $0. So like everybody had a bigger budget. Literally everybody had a bigger budget, but it's still like, you know, just try to get into the mindset of like being early on, trying to find your footing. So the film was like difficult to shoot for sure. Like timing wise, it wasn't a lot of time, and it was a situation where the event that we did, the premiere, was already set before the film was done, and I didn't finish the film until the night before. And I finished shooting the night before the premiere. I showed the first cut at the premiere before I even saw it myself, and I finished editing it like an hour before the premiere. So it was definitely like down to the wire, but it was really gratifying and it was super fun. And for me, it was just important to get that project done so I can show like who I am, not just in the music side, but in the visual side, like as a filmmaker as well, because I feel like I want people to understand and buy into Will Cherry as not just a musician, but as a filmmaker. And I want, you know, the times to come where like I'm going to be doing like full hour and a half feature films.
How do you think you uniquely understand this movement of artists relying a lot more on self-sufficiency, self-production, and kind of moving away from a more traditionally label-focused area of music?
I feel like I understand it on the level of just like it's the necessity. Like I feel like the music industry has changed, media has changed, and beyond like music industry as far as like record labels and distribution companies, but also like radio, like everything has changed. Like the blog era is over. Like everything is like shifting in these interesting ways to where like, and most important thing is algorithms came into play in the way that they weren't before. So like it's just this weird sort of reliance that a lot of platforms and companies have on algorithms, to where like the support that they would have for artists that are like super creative but maybe don't have it all together, that support is no longer there if they're not already blown up. So like as an artist, if you want to get all these ideas out and you don't have the budget, it's just never going to happen unless you figure out a cheap way to do it yourself. So it's like it's either you do it or it'll never get done. So it's like it's definitely like necessity. I feel like with me, like I have these big ideas sometimes, like, but it's just what's the manageable version of it. Like if you looked at my videography, I'm trying to think, the most expensive video I have is probably like, not counting what it would cost for a crew, is probably $100 to $150, the most expensive one, which I'm thinking was probably going to be worse to me. And that made it onto like MTV, which is like, for me, is like the holy grail for music videos and stuff like that. And it was literally like no publicist, like it wasn't help from management, it wasn't anything. It was me editing the videos. My first time ever editing a music video was me directing the video, like just having these ideas, taking stuff I already had around the house, bringing it to this Airbnb and shoot it in like 4 hours and put it together and put it out and see what it does. Like I feel like this is the era that we're in, where it's like creatively you have to take the reins on this thing or it just won't happen. Because I mean, it's some, you know, some unique cases where people are like, you know, randomly see an artist and they want to help the artist, but just it's not common. So it's like you gotta do what's best for you, essentially. And going into the 2010s, as I really like started to get a little bit more serious with making music and stuff like that, was when Tyler came out and Donald Glover came out, and it was more of these people that did everything themselves, which further like inspired me when it came to just taking the reins on doing everything myself. So definitely like albums like Wolf from Tyler early on, Because the Internet, like Channel Orange by Frank Ocean, like all of those albums, like in those couple years that they came out, hit me in really interesting ways and inspired me and made me want to become like a more reflective sort of artist. And I feel like it wasn't until somewhere in Ohio that I got to fully land on the version of reflection that I was looking for this whole time.
That's a really like cool point to be able to reach within the process.
Yeah, it felt good to like, because I feel like, you know, I've made music that I'm proud of, like musically, and like sometimes with the lyrically as well, like music I'm proud of, but I feel like now is probably the most dedicated concept I've ever done. Like even with all those albums I mentioned, those are all concept albums. And as Kendrick, another person too that I looked up to, and look up to, and like made concept albums every single time. So like it's always something I wanted to get to, but for whatever reason, it just wasn't time for me to like crack the code and feel like until now.
You've referred variously to MTV and the blog era and sort of
Yeah.
bygone eras. Are those ones that you kind of feel yourself having a level of nostalgia, or I guess missing them?
Yeah. I definitely, I've had this idea I've been talking to my girlfriend about, like, I kind of want to do like, I have an idea to do something completely inspired by that, how we feel, how we miss like these old versions of media that are just not as important or relevant as they used to be. Because like, I definitely miss like MTV. Like, I was on MTV News, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was 2022. I think either it might have been this year. I think 2023 they shut down. 2024 they wiped everything off the internet, like the entire. So that article I was on is gone.
Yeah.
Like, and that's happened in media in so many ways. But like, I grew up loving, all these different forms of media. Every day I would check Complex, Pitchfork, Hypebeast. Like, I was watching 106 in Park and TRL every single day. I was just tapping in. Like, this was the way that you got informed. This is the way that you saw, what was new. This is how things were premiered. And I feel like losing these things, and losing the radio as well, as far as like the level of importance, it leads to what we're experiencing now, which is like, I'm trying to think, what's the word? Sort of like a splintering culture.
Fragmentation.
That's exactly what it is. That's what I've been telling people. Like, everything is so fragmented. So like, a lot of artists that are like so great, and actually I can't use this exact same because it might make somebody mad, but there's like a thing that's happening, right? And it's I gotta talk like vaguely, but it's a thing that's happening from an institution in the city that's very important, or has been important throughout history, and it's a very specific type of artist that's all through it. And I was thinking about it, I was like, if this was 20 years ago with the same type of institution in Chicago, they would have had Kanye West there. But in 2024, they would not have 2024's version of Kanye West because of how splintered things are, to where it's like even major platforms that used to be inclusive of everything has moved apart from each other so much that they just have to serve that one base because they can rely on that base. They can't rely on everybody else. So like, I definitely miss how things used to be, and sometimes I wonder like, what's the creative solution? Like, what's the way that I as an artist can try to bridge the gap? But I'm trying to in certain ways, and it has not been easy. It hasn't been easy because I'm walking around in the same t-shirt every day trying to play this character, and like, that's not what people in these certain places are looking for. They're looking for you to have some change. They're looking for you to be talking about a certain type of lifestyle. But it's like, man, when Kanye was walking around in polos every day, they had to make way. Like, it's undeniable at a certain point. So it's like, maybe I have to go around some of these certain things, but it's a weird thing, So like, I'm trying to figure it out right now because I definitely miss it, and I definitely want to bring it back. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like we're losing a lot. Like, we're losing the recipes in a way. Like, and I don't know. As a creative person, it's sort of it's hurtful, I should say. Like, because it's like, damn, we're losing the focus. Because the thing is, like, when things do splinter like that, the reason why it's splintering, like I said, is because they're trying to serve the base. So that's not, everything is not predicated on creativity or what we think will last the longest. It's predicated on what's performing the best now. But the reason why certain things have performance is not going to be because of creativity. It could be because of the algorithm. It could be because of anything. So it's like everything loses its value in the process.
Do you have a sense of hope or optimism when you look at a future of kind of more creator-backed media, or do you think that's something that kind of fills you with a bit of anxiety?
I think it's risky. I think it's risky in the sense of like, it depends on the intention of the creators. Like, if you mean like, creator in the sense of like, it's like a platform, like a journalistic platform created by the journalist sort of thing. We are witnessing in hip hop these situations where, especially like on Twitter and different places like that, there's a lack of like integrity because there is no editor-in-chief. Like there's nobody to tell you no. So like we're going for what gets the clicks. We can monetize it. Twitter is monetized. Like so it's like it's whatever can get the reaction. So that's scary. But at the same time, like I'm also witnessing like a lot of the journalists at different platforms getting fired. Like I mentioned, MTV News got shut down. It's a lot of platforms like that with the massive layoffs this year and last year. So like I have hope for the idea that it's going to take, you know, certain writers and certain creators to be like, I want to create something for myself. And I believe in myself enough to get a camera and get a microphone like you're doing right now and like push myself and go talk to the artists that I find interesting. Like I think I just saw Elliot Wilson. He was saying like people are complaining because Kendrick did an interview with Harper's Bazaar. He talked to SZA, another artist.
That was a really good
I liked it.
discussion.
I liked it. And like he was saying, you know, what these interviewers should do is go reach out to the artists that they like that are more reachable, which is exactly what we're doing right here. It's like two people that can message each other. I'll see the message, I'll hit you back. You see my message, you hit me back, and we can actually talk and do something, as opposed to like just worrying about what somebody that we can't reach is doing.
Yeah.
Like this matters more. Well, I gotta give a shout out to Club Ultraviolet, my team, my manager, my girlfriend Erica, and even like my group Starlight. Like all of the people that are in my, you know, creative circle, the administrative side of Will Cherry and everything. Like it wouldn't be possible without having the people that are able to, you know, bounce ideas off of, tell you what works, what doesn't work, you know, handle the difficult parts of getting things together and scheduled and running the show essentially. Because a lot of what I do starts with me or starts with us, as opposed to like leaning on other people. Like a lot of the shows that we do are shows that, or the shows that I'm a part of are shows that I'm putting on, or a lot of the, you know, music I'm doing is music that it takes me having the initiative to do it. And, same with the video, same with the short film that we have. Like all of it is like us pushing ourselves. Somewhere in Ohio and all over America, I know it's not just my story, so that's enough about me.
Now, what do you want?